Hello, everybody. This is Andrew Scott with Favor and the Famine. Thank you so much for tuning in. And on this video, I'm going to go over the three steps, the three H's for effective accountability. So, as leaders, we all need to make sure that we set the example of being a good example. And one of the many things that we're looked at that needs to be exemplified to our uh, employees, to our comrades, to our other reports, to our direct reports, to our supervisors, everybody, we need to show accountability. Accountability is so important because it shows that we're able to be honest, like we're able to take the blame or take ownership of something when things go wrong. A lot of people just only want to take ownership or they want to take the credit when things go right. But it's very important, it is very imperative to practice, to implement ownership over the good and the bad, over the success and over the failures. So I know right now you're probably wondering, what is accountability? So the definition of accountability, according to Webster's Dictionary, is the meaning of accountability is a quality or state of being accountable, an obligation or willingness to accept responsibility or to account for one's actions. So basically, like I said, it's just taking ownership of things when things not only go good, but when things go bad. In a culture, in an organization, whether it's a family, it's an organization, it's a business, whatever the dynamic, if one person, especially the leader or one of whom is in leadership position, somebody who has a lot of authority, that has a lot of influence, if that person doesn't set the tone for accountability, the rest of the people, the rest of the organization, the rest of that culture is stained. It is like almost like a I don't like to that's a really serious word, cancer. I don't like the word cancer, but it is very counterproductive. It is very negative on everybody. It just sets the example. It's a domino effect of, okay, well, if this person, the head person who everybody looks to, the go to person doesn't take accountability, why should I take accountability? It's kind of like with what you hear in sports with the main guy or the star person. When they say, I think it was one of the podcasts. I think it was a podcast with Steven Jackson. He was talking about Tim Duncan when Steven Jackson played for the Spurs, because Steven Jackson was a pretty nice basketball player, pretty good basketball player, especially early in his career. He played for the Golden State Warriors, played for the Charlotte Bobcats, eventually, and eventually the San Antonio Spurs. By the time that he was with the San Antonio Spurs, he was on the tail end of his career. And he was saying that he normally has like a very fiery attitude. He can be very combative or he can be very defensive. He admitted that. But he said, how can I get upset with Coach Greg Popovich, the Spurs coach, legendary Spurs coach? How can I be upset and go back at Coach Pop? And he's not only chewing me out, he's chewing the superstars out. Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, and Tim Duncan. He ripping them apart. So he said, I can't say nothing because they're taking accountability. They're not asking for uh, preferential treatment. They're not asking to be, the diva status. They took accountability. So that set the tone for the rest of the team. And the Spurs is one of the very highly respected, honorable, quote unquote, dynasties in recent history in the NBA. Same thing with the New England Patriots. With Bill Belichick, they said he would chew Tom Brady out and they would bump heads. And Tom Brady's considered the GOAT. But because Tom Brady was able to take accountability and Coach Belichick was able to get on Tom Brady just like everybody else, that set the tone for the dynasty. There's nothing worse than a leader who is too arrogant, who is too prideful to take accountability, especially when they deflect and they try to point it or pin it on somebody else. is really unfortunate. So, the three H's for effective accountability. The three H's for effective accountability. So, the first step is honesty. You have to be honest. Being honest, I know it can feel daunting at times. I know it can feel, I know it can feel daunting. I know it can feel there's like a lot of pressure, or it can feel like trepidatious to be able to be honest in that moment. It's a lot easier, like I said, it's a lot easier for somebody to take accountability and ownership when things go in that person's favor. But when something doesn't go in that person's favor, it's hard. But I promise you, you'll win so much respect from your counterparts, from your peers. If you're honest, to take the first step of being honest in order to take accountability. Being honest and just being like, man, be honest with yourself first. Man, I messed up. I did this wrong. I should have done better. Having that self awareness, having that honesty, having that integrity those things are so important as a leader. And once you're honest with yourself, then it's easy to be honest with your other people who see or who know, who've acknowledged or who have interpreted that there was a mistake made. We all make mistakes. We all are human. If anybody tries to say that that person that is perfect or that person doesn't make mistakes, they're lying to you and they're arrogant, they're pompous. And anyway, so honesty is the first step. Be honest with yourself and be honest with others. And secondly, it takes humility. It takes humility to actually be honest and to actually admit your mistakes. Because a lot of times, just segueing from my last point, one who is not honest with themselves and especially with other people, they're not humble. They're arrogant. They're not able to. They want to project this image or this narrative that they never make mistakes, and they want to point out other people's flaws, or not even point out other people's flaws and deflect. They might even try to scapegoat that person. They might try to pin something on somebody else. They just might try to make up something. They call that gaslighting. They call that a whole bunch of stuff. But that's a whole, I don't want to go down the rabbit hole. But that person would try to pin it on somebody else. And that is not showing integrity. That's not showing good leadership. And being humble requires, okay, I am good, but I'm not perfect. There's a difference between being striving for perfection, which is impossible, and striving for excellence. Excellence is basically doing one's best to their maximum ability. If somebody, it's like two people, two students. If one student A has a capability of making A's, and the other one, student B, is capable of making a B minus, but the student B or the second student makes a B minus, and the student A or the first student who's capable of making an A makes a C or a B, then the first student who had the capability or the potential to make an A didn't strive for excellence. But the second one, or student B, had a spirit of excellence. They exemplify excellence. They exemplify excellence because they reach their capacity, they reach their potential. So be humble and strive for excellence. And my third point is the third step in being for effective accountability is being helpful. So after you're being honest, after you be honest and you admit what's wrong to yourself and others and being humble, it takes humility to be able to be self-aware and to be able to do those things. The third thing is, okay, how can I help in this situation? I was honest and I was humble in acknowledging that to not only myself, but to other people. And I'm able to learn from it. And that's another part of the humility part, being able to learn from it. If somebody is always deflecting or trying to point the blame at somebody else and they never want to admit their mistakes, they can't learn from it. If you can't learn from it, you won't grow from it. So you're going to be stuck in that perpetual state over and over and over again, and you're going to be stagnant and you're going to plateau. Instead of admitting it, being honest, being humble, and then being helpful, then you can grow and you can ascend. But if you're too cocky, if you're not honest, if you're dishonest, if you're not humble or arrogant, you can't be helpful and you're going to be stagnant and you might even descend. So, the third point, be helpful. Hey, how can I fix this situation? Not only do I want to, not only am I admitting I did something wrong, I want to help fix it. And not only how can I help fix it now, how can we learn from it to prevent this from recurring in the future? I'm telling you, if you practice those three things, which I've seen, which I've done, which I've implemented, and it makes a huge difference. Your counterparts, your employees, your direct reports, even your supervisor or your business partners or your clients will respect you so much more because those are signs, those are traits of a good leader, of an excellent leader, not a perfect leader because nobody's perfect. Nobody's perfect. Exemplify excellence. So remember the three H's. The first H is be honest, be humble, and be helpful. So if these three traits helped you, remember to write them down and implement them, practice them. The next situation you're in, I know it's going to be tough because it's going to be that little trepidation. There's going to be that little fear inside of you where it's going to be like you want to resist and you want to either ignore it or you want to try to sweep it under the rug. No, be honest, be humble about it when you're being honest. Don't be honest and be like, well, if this person had done this, this would have never happened. No, that's not being honest. You're being defensive, you're being arrogant, you're deflecting. Be honest, be humble, and then be helpful. And watch how that changes the trajectory. It changes the landscape of not only your leadership capability, but your organization, your culture, the culture in your organization, the culture in your business, the culture in your family, the culture in your church, the culture in your whatever. Be the change agent that people want and need to see. Remember, favor and a famine. God bless.